Hello, Dale the Librarian. Let's talk about another citation manager called noodletools. This is one that we subscribe to at the University of Utah, so it's free for you. Otherwise, it's a subscription based out in the real world, so be careful to go and do your first registration at the library homepage in the research databases. Otherwise, you might not be in our nest of subscriptions that are subsidized. So when you're looking at noodletools, after you've registered for it, there's a lot of added value things that you may or may not use. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of them. But when you first start, you have to declare a project. So in another citation manager, you might be able to switch styles as you go. On this one, you have to pick a style at the outset. And it's intentional that way so you can manage your workflow through all these other things that they've got going on. So I have some projects here. If we do a new project, you can see you can give it any title you want. It will never reflect in your final output. But here you have to pick your style. And unlike some other ones, there are very limited numbers of styles, and I will tell you why we do that later. But for this one, I'll pick Chicago and Turabian for my motorcycling. It automatically dumps me in to this dashboard that's in the project. But if you go back to the projects, you can see motorcycling, my style, and the advanced number of sources and notes. When I'm in the dashboard, there's this research manager, so you can put in your research question, hypotheses, and you can share it with other folks and so on and so forth, and you can have a to-do list. I'm not necessarily going to use that in this case. The main thing that I want to use this for is doing citations, and that would be under sources. But I encourage you to try this out. For some people, it really resonates well. On this one, there's nothing here but this nice green button that says Create a New Citation. The beauty and the strength of this citation manager over any other one is that it has all of these different ways of citing things. So there's obscure things like interviews or public speeches, and let me show you those. And what it'll do is it walks you through, and you can say, well, am I looking at a speech online? And then it says, well, maybe you're looking at this. And so if you don't get quite there, it has suggestions of other ones that you might go to. The more common ones are going to be shown up on all the other citation managers, but this is the strength of this one. And then it's asking you question after question. What's the first name of the presenter, the title of the presentation, and this has just a bare minimum of things. You can add contributors, but if I go back to sources, the most common one you're going to use is like a database or website. But the unpublished things, they're fun to put in there because it's really good. So say, for example, I was doing a journal. And what you would do is you would have, you could tell it where you were finding it. So if you had a print journal, website, whatever you have, but you'd have to have it open on this side. And you go back and you'd say, oh, I need the document object identifier. And you'd look for that. If you can't find something that it asks for, another cool thing about this database is if you leave it blank, it'll just format whatever you have. So the name of the database was communication. Oh, look at there. It even fills out that. That's a neat feature. Database accession number. That's not necessary. So some of these things you don't necessarily have to find. On the author, Alex. I think that was how you pronounce that. But you can just cut and paste. You get the idea. You put in all of those things by hand. There's no way of automatically importing something. So that is one of the weaknesses of this. But when you're working with the style, it is going to be reminding you on each one. So it says on this style, you only capitalize the first letter of the first word. And so that would be capitalized, but not this one. So it gives you these little reminders in there. When you get to the end, and you don't have enough information, or you're not convinced that you have all the information, no matter what happens is when you click, it'll remind you, what do we need as a bare minimum? But it's not going to say, oh, we need the DOI or things like that. So now I'm going to need the name of the journal, American Journalism Review. And see if I can, I'm just going to make these up issue 3, publication date, I think it was January 4th, 2013. I'm just making this up. When you click submit, you get your beautiful citation right there. And it's already formatted, and this is the most reliable way of getting a correct citation. So if you're struggling with citation style and you're not getting it right, noodletools is the one that you would want to go with. When you're done with your citation, you can do this cool thing. Let me show you a different project where I've got more citations. I'm going to go into this one, go to my sources. So this one I have several sources. If you have a minimum requirement of a certain amount of articles versus websites, when you go into this and you click analysis, it'll give you this little graph and tell you where you're working from. So far I've got one from a database, one from print, and the rest are from web. So you can see where your balance needs improving. When you do the print and export, you can go to all these different versions. Let me just show you what you get. You could ostensibly just like copy the text from right here and just dump it into whatever document you wanted. So you can do them one by one. I use that a lot. But you can also just do this and get your whole formatted bibliography ready to go. And obviously it's in the wrong font, but that's easy enough to change as you go. So noodletools, really good for obscure things and for fine detailed citation style.